Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the new Sony Hall. Isn't this beautiful, this place? It's amazing looking. It's incredible. Anyways, I'm Brad Talinsky with BackStory Events, and tonight's show's going to be live streamed on guitarworld.com. It'll be up there if you guys love what you see and you want to go relive it. It's going to be on guitarworld.com. And I don't know, I recognize a few of these faces out here before. You may know that this is part of a larger series. We do have a regular interview series that we do. And if you want to know more and want to see who we're going to be talking to in the future, go to BackStoryEvents.com. So, with 11 number one rock singles. I mean, think about that. 11 number one rock singles. That's like ridiculous. And they've got a brand new record, which I've heard coming out in May. And tonight, you're going to hear some songs from it, which is going to be awesome. And it's a fantastic record, super ambitious. These guys are one of the biggest rock bands on the planet. Tonight, we're going to discuss with them about the new album, the future, and then they're going to play a little bit. So without any further hesitation, let's start the conversation and bring out Shinedown.
Hello.
Yeah. New York City! Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. What's going on, guys and girls? Hey, seriously, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're super excited to be here. Thank you so much for being here. Love you back.
Say hello to Brad, everyone.
Say hi to Brad, everyone.
So anyways, let's start right at the top. Let's talk about the significance of the title of this record, Attention, Attention. I thought, well, is this a signal to your fans and people at large that this was something special? You really want to just grab them?
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons why when we talked about the artwork for the record, the exclamation point was, it was a big deal. Yeah, you got to flip it around.
Yeah. It was the Incredibles logo before that.
It was the Incredibles logo before that.
I didn't say I was smart.
We're all musicians. I mean, come on. We didn't get here by being smart. None of us. No, because the dynamic of the album, it's the first record that we've done that is a story album. A lot for us for this particular record was about impact and about making a statement. And we feel like this record is very necessary right now. We also feel like it's a very urgent sound that's not been heard in quite some time. That was the dynamic too, by calling it Attention, Attention, and putting the exclamation point and designing an exclamation point that when you saw it, you knew exactly what it represented. Marco Bresky is actually who came up with the exclamation point. I remember when Zach said, we should call the album Attention, Attention. There's a song on the album called that, but when we were looking at different names for what the record could have been, we kind of got into that zone of, it was just too much, and we wanted to have the impact of less is more. And to be honest with you, it's really one of the coolest album covers I think we've ever come up with.
Yeah, we actually toyed around with some other album titles that were like long and extended, almost like a storybook title or something.
We even almost went self-titled.
We did.
Because we don't have a self-titled album.
Yeah, we thought about just calling it Shinedown because it's so autobiographical. It's about our lives over the past 2.5 years, and it's all laid out there. So that would have made sense, but we didn't do that.
Now it's called Attention, Attention.
Yeah, I mean, I was really caught by the album's graphics too. I thought it's so simple, but it has a lot of different meanings. And one is, it just must be hard, even with guys that have had your track record and your success, to really cut through the social media to get people's attention, to get them looking away from their cell phones a little bit, right?
I think that you have to take an initiative, or at least the four of us took the initiative to understand that the album is really about not being afraid to fail. I think that sometimes people will pigeonhole themselves a bit and almost put themselves into a corner when they want something different for their life, no matter what it is, and they're looking for not so much a greater purpose, but they're looking for what's next for them. And sometimes, because they've never attempted certain things, they're afraid to try. The fact of the matter is, you're gonna need to fail. You're gonna have to. That's the only way you're gonna get better. And a lot of that is built in this record, because we don't think that you're gonna be defined by your failures. We think you'll be defined by the fact that you didn't give up.
I think, too, for us, that, your first standing ovation of the night, Mr. Smith.
The first of many, we're sure.
I think for us, too, it was about the social media thing. I think that we always kind of had this slow rise with social media to where the people who have 4 million followers overnight are gone in 6 weeks. You know, and for us, it was always kind of this slow build. So cutting through it is always kind of be us being ourselves and kind of standing out amongst the crowd with being ourselves and not trying to be weird.
But we also did something pretty specific on, just for Shinedown as a whole. We kind of, I think the four of us looked at each other and we realized how important that reach can be if you really pay attention to your social media and what's going on in the world. We hired this amazing young lady named Morgan Townsend. Who's here tonight. And she's actually the head of our digital strategy. Alongside Allison and Liam from our management, Indigoot and McGaffey Promotions. They're here tonight as well. Leah Piscicani from Atlantic Records is here tonight, head of rock. Chris Brown, our product manager, is here as well. Carla, our press, our publicist Carla's here tonight. We got a lot of people in the house.
I actually want to touch on something Brent said earlier, and I'm gonna take it back serious again. But he's talking about not being afraid to fail, and this record exists because we failed. We failed each other in a lot of ways, and went through a lot of hard times, and fell on our faces, and we're lucky to be here in a lot of ways, and that's why this is here. So I think the fact, what he was saying about, the greatest things can come out of failure, and
isn't that also part of like being an artist? Isn't it always like a little bit scary to embark upon a new project or a new record? I mean, you have to really put yourself out there.
I was nervous 15 seconds ago before we walked out here. I would be worried if I wasn't nervous before we walked out on stage. I still get like crazy butterflies. Doesn't matter if it's in front of 5 people or if we're in front of 500,000, because we played for both. And if you're not nervous, something's wrong. It lets you know you're alive. Don't run from that. It'll be there for you when you need it.
Do you ever get worried about topping yourself or making the next record better, that kind of stuff?
I just told Liam backstage. This is the first time we've seen this vinyl actually today. It was the first time we laid eyes on it, and I'm holding it, and I started to have anxiety about the fact that we're going to have to start making another one at some point, and this one's not even out yet. So,
by the way, for those of you who don't know this already, the gentleman to my right over here is the producer of this record and the mixer of this album.
We're going to get way deep into that a little bit later on. But I also want to just set up this record for everybody out there that's looking at us in the stream, people in the audience here. This was kind of a concept record, right? Like, I listened to it and I saw it's more like almost a psychological concept or journey.
It is. The whole album actually takes place inside of a room. How many people have seen the Devil video? And so, how many people have seen the Human Radio video? So, if you notice in the audio, there's kind of like this machine at the beginning kind of going on. It kind of has a bit of a heartbeat. So that's the way that the album starts off. And then you hear a knock at the door. You hear the door open up. You can hear this person walk into this room, the environment kind of changes. You hear this chair get pulled up, person sits down, takes a deep breath, exhale, and then Devil starts. So we wanted the listener to be able to put themselves inside the chair in the room, because another part of this record is that it is a story, and the goal is to not only sonically but visually tell the story. So we're going to be doing a video for every song on the album to tell the story. So the significance, if you go back and you look at the Devil video and you look at the Human Radio video, because those are the ones that are out right now, you're going to see a couple of frames where you'll see that chair by itself. There's a lot of symbolism that goes into this. I don't want to continue the full thought, I guess, because I think about when me and Eric and Zach and Barry, we were all kind of looking at each other, and when we were deciding that, let's make a record that tells a story, but don't do it in like the quintessential concept record way. Concept records I think of are like Pink Floyd's The Wall or Tommy's, when The Who did Tommy, or even Queensryche's Operation Mindcrime, which is a killer record.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like really specific things in those albums, and this was, it's a lot more broad, but we want to take you on a journey. We want to take you on a ride, physically, mentally, psychologically, even spiritually. It literally is, the record has no boundaries.
We really didn't know we were making a story record until we had written quite a few songs, and they all started having this thread of what's been going on in our lives and dealing with our own personal demons, and because each one of us have different ways we try to destroy ourselves when we're not touring.
Lots of ways.
So it kind of hit us in the head a little bit, where it was like, wait a minute, we had written this one particular song, and it was like, oh, this is really personal. It's okay now to write about all these other things that have happened and kind of make a chronological story out of them. So out of the gate, there wasn't this intention to write a story record, but it just sort of, it wanted to happen, and it wouldn't let us not do that.
Doesn't that sort of help open you up to maybe some of those darker aspects, because you can do it in the guise of a story, and in some ways it's a device that you may feel a little bit more comfortable about writing something personal because it's within the concept of a fictional story.
Maybe, I don't think in this instance that was it, though. I don't think it was about making it safe. I think on this record, it was the opposite of that. This record, it was okay to just say, this is what this is. This is about us. The thing is, it's put into a form where all of you will be able to take things out of these songs and apply them to your life or apply them to some experience you're going through. So it's not this, uber personal thing where we're calling each other by name or anything. Yeah. It's still very very much a rock record and very much a Shinedown record in that way. But it was sort of the opposite. Whereas previous records, we've written about personal things, but we kind of packaged them into something else, or even if it was after the fact, we sort of turned them in a different direction. And on this record, it was, I remember Brent and I having this conversation about, are we going to talk about this when this comes out? Are we going to really say this is what this is about? Are we going to address these issues and talk about them? And we had a very lengthy conversation about that. And in the end, we thought it was best to be honest with everyone, and we thought it would make the record more impactful.
We talked about it earlier too, like in previous records, like we would hide stuff in ambiguity and kind of tuck it in somewhere into a story, to where it is about you, but maybe you don't want to be so forward and say it's about you because you're kind of hiding it a bit. And this record is just so plainly put that it is about the four of us. And I think we're letting people into kind of our lives more so than we ever have before. Especially even on a record like Sound of Madness, we would kind of tether things into a thread of a bigger picture. And this is blatantly about the four of us at different times in our lives.
Well, what I did notice is that the arc of the record, it ends on a super uplifting, redemptive note.
But still cautionary, though.
Yeah.
Well, I just wondered if you guys are in a better place in your
we
lives
yeah.
now.
We totally are in a better place. But the thing is going into the story, we were in a great place as well. And we were a machine,
Yeah.
and it was on the Amaryllis tour. And when we came off of touring that record, we ran everything right into a wall and spent the entire last Threat to Survival album cycle fixing ourselves. and you end up with attention. So,
And I'll be very, very upfront about this as well. Like he said, when we finished the album cycle for Amaryllis, thank you. There's such an awesome energy in this room. I love it.
All right.
we know Zach's the cute one. We get it.
But the interesting thing was, coming off of Amaryllis, he makes a very, very good point, Eric. We were just a machine when we came off the road. We were physically in the best shape of our lives. We were 24, 25 months into just playing so many shows and being all over the entire globe that all of a sudden, on the very last show of the cycle, after 2.5 years of touring, it stopped. And
For 2 years.
For 2 years. And here's the thing, too. We asked for all of this. The only reason that we are on this stage right now is because of every single person in this building. So thank you.
Yeah, this is. It's not a poor me thing or anything.
It's not.
I mean, we know what we signed up for. It's just we have to tell what we know. You know?
And the thing about that was, and I'm getting to it, is I think if anybody knows my history, I'm very, very open about my struggles with alcoholism and drug abuse. And in 2014, I fell because I was in such a focused place that when it completely stopped, I didn't know what to do. And, you know, I kind of fell from grace. And then fast forwarding into the making and the writing of the record Threat to Survival, there's a reason that record was called Threat to Survival. And during that journey, it was a rebuilding for all four of us. But the three gentlemen that I'm with, and I'm with them more than anyone, they never looked at me and they never judged me. Like, they were never like looking at me and they're like, I can't believe you screwed up again. That never happened. Like, they never looked at me and said, look, you know, we just don't think that this is gonna be able to continue. And there wasn't that. They were just there for me. Eric left Charleston, South Carolina, and didn't tell me, and showed up in Los Angeles at my house. And he took me to the Cleveland Clinic for 2 weeks to help me try to get my head straight. And, you know, and then moving forward in a lot of this, it was that whole touring cycle was rebuilding, not only just for me personally, physically, I had to do a lot of work to like regain not only my physical, but my mental focus. And I just remember we started to get that machine again, but we started to get that machine with a really strong heartbeat. And at the end of 2016, we were finishing up the touring cycle for Threat, and we were actually on the road with another band. And in November and December, we were kind of finishing off that cycle. And Eric was like, and the last part of November and December, this is at the end of 2016, he goes, I'm just gonna bring a small Pro Tools rig out, and on the show days, I'm just gonna find a room in the arena and just work on some new material. By the time we finished that tour, that was about 2 months long, he had 22 compositions. They didn't have any lyrics or any vocals or melodies to it, but he had all of these great pieces of music. So when I finally listened to him in January of last year, that's kind of where the idea of we've never done a concept record or a record that tells a story, let's do something different. But that's really like where it all kind of sparked from.
So you went through all sorts of transformations, and even sort of a physical one, like you were like, looked like a serious goth dude for a while.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I wouldn't trade it, man. It got me to where I am.
I mean, I dig the new look, but did you?
I love my inner Robert
Kathy Lee
Smith.
Gifford inspired all of this, actually, I think.
But did you feel that inner transformation sort of manifested itself into something? I'm not going to say more wholesome, but like a different look. Did you want to look different?
I don't know. I mean, I just kind of, you know what? I'll be straight up with you. Eric and Zach and Barry, it goes back to that moment a second ago. They've never judged me, and I don't judge them either. We just support each other. And, for me, I just was in a place where I don't, I guess in the last couple of years, certain people have said that I've kind of turned into a little bit of a chameleon, but I'm always going to be Brent Steven Smith from Knoxville, Tennessee.
Well, singers
And I'm proud of that.
Singers are supposed to do that stuff anyways,
I'm 100% authentic, and I am totally cool with who I am.
Aw.
So, Eric.
We love you, Brent.
Love you back.
You all right.
Thank you.
You're all right.
So, Eric, you produced this record, and I want to, yes.
Producing us isn't easy, so clap for that.
Did that change the way you guys work together in the studio at all? I mean,
No, I had produced tracks previously. I produced Cut the Cord. I produced Diamond Eyes. Some other, a song called I'm Alive that was on the Avengers soundtrack, and some other things. So it wasn't.
Also, her name is Alice. He did that as well.
It wasn't uncharted territory, but I was I wouldn't say pretty apprehensive. I was a little apprehensive about doing it because I'm a firm believer that a band benefits greatly from a great producer. And if you, not that I'm not a good producer, but you lose that outside opinion, especially when you've written the demo, produced the demo, then recorded, tried to produce the song, and trying to have that outside perspective that can really help a song if it's needed. But I thought that I really had a scope for what this record wanted to be. You can say it's Pollyanna or whatever to say this, but music records have a heartbeat, and they have a soul, and songs, a collection of songs will let you know. I'd rather go crazy making this record than, go crazy watching someone else try to make it. And I did go crazy, by the way.
I remember sitting on a bus, and we were in Montana. I'll never forget this. And it was almost like the three of us were trying to convince him that he had to produce the record, because he's one of the most humble people you'll ever meet as far as his talent goes, and he is by far the most talented person in our band. It's true.
Or something.
Or something.
He might not necessarily 100% agree with what I'm getting ready to say, but it really is true because I watched it. He never walked in any day and didn't know exactly what he was going to do on that day. Like, when he walked in, he never had that look of, like, what have I gotten myself into? He knew very, very specifically what that day was going to bring. And as the record, as we got deeper into the album, if there were days where he knew that he might be just a little too burned out, or he's not slept enough, or what have you, he consciously would look at me and look at Zach and look at Barry, and he'd go, let's get out of here for a minute. And then we'd go and we'd do something else, and we might come back to the studio, or we might start again the next day. That's the sign of a true leader, and also a sign of a real producer, because by him showing everybody involved that he had total control of the situation, and he was going to guide everybody in the direction that they needed to go. And that's what he did every single day, and he kept it positive. It was intense, but it was meant to be intense. But we also laughed a lot as well because we're around each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. You did.
No, not you. It was like, I think the biggest worry when you self-produce is that you're not going to be able to police yourselves.
You're going to turn into a spaceship and fly off somewhere.
Exactly.
Right?
You're gonna make a record that you want to make, and then no one's gonna like it. But no, he was able to police the record as the producer of the record, but then also be the bass player of the record and be my bandmate and go, hey, I think you should play it this. Also, it should be in time, and it should be this chord.
Well, I mean, we had this conversation on the bus.
Do it again. Do it again. Do it again.
Do it again.
Almost. Do it again.
I'm not that bad.
So-
I like to capture a moment. It's just got to be good.
I feel like I'm at a banquet. You guys clap after everything. This is great. I've never felt so much self-pride when everybody claps like after everything we say.
I love it.
It's great.
No, but to your question though, these guys allowed me to be the producer, and never questioned anything I was asking them to do, and honestly, I think in any other band there would have been somebody who was butthurt or something, right? With one of their bandmates telling them how to play their instrument or how to perform a certain way, and these guys never did that, and they'd say maybe, "Are you sure?" every once in a while, but
A lot.
but would never completely question anything. And to that note, though, I'm very in any band that I work with as a producer, but especially this band, you have to admit when you're wrong about something too, and so I was always keeping myself in check with what I was doing and making sure I was making the right decisions for these guys. So. It was just an extension of our band dynamic as it is now. I mean, we all love each other. We all get along. We could all ride individual buses, but we don't. We also ride the same bus and watch each other sleep and do crazy, weird things like that. But
Hold up, what? No, we like each other. It's, at this level of success, sometimes, like I said, we could easily be on our own buses right now, but we genuinely like each other. We look forward to after the show getting on the bus and watching Netflix and watching comedy specials and hanging out with each other. And
What are you watching on Netflix these days?
We can't stop watching Dave Chappelle.
We've been watching
all
a lot
Dave
of Dave
Chappelle
Chappelle.
all the time.
see, the good thing about bands watching comedians is all musicians secretly want to be comedians, and
That's
if we
true.
just
That is true.
repeat everything Dave Chappelle says
Yeah.
to each other, we think we're funny.
we think we're funny because we repeat things that funny people actually
Yeah.
said.
But I was wondering, Eric, did you have a vision, like a sound going into this record that you wanted to
I
achieve?
did, and I think that in my mind, I probably 85 to 90% captured what I wanted to capture. I think that if I had gone full tilt 100% to what I wanted, the record might not be listenable. So I really wanted it to sound dangerous. I wanted it to sound urgent. I wanted it to sound like it was gonna fly out of the speaker and grab you and strangle you. And I mean that very seriously, actually. But then when they're the tender moments of the record, I wanted to embrace you and put you in a blanket and wrap you up and rock you to sleep. So, and
Which he did.
But like with a song like Devil,
He did. He wrapped me up one night in a blanket. It was awesome.
It's when I was watching him sleep.
Before he sang the
And then he
vocal,
watched me sleep for 3 days.
before he sang the vocal on Special, Eric actually wrapped him up in a blanket. It was very nice.
Yes,
not true.
No, but listen to how the way the Devil sounds, and I wanted the drums to be distorted. I wanted the vocals to be distorted. I wanted it to sound not safe. And this is not me sitting on high and taking a shot at anybody else, but a lot of rock records these days are super clean and processed and can sound, not as dangerous as they could sound. So for this record, because of the subject matter and because of the gravity of that, I wanted the music and the production to mirror that. So, but there was an iteration of Devil at one point that was over the top, distorted almost, and
Ted Jensen had to reel you in.
no, Ted Jensen didn't reel me in, but I actually got to reel myself in a little bit on it and realize that you have to no, come back a little bit. You've gone too far. Come back.
The record is, it really is gigantic sounding. I was telling somebody it was sort of like listening to a preview to a movie in a theater. It's just like, and each note seems to be, every note is big and has real intention behind it. And I was wondering, Zach, does that approach affect like how you're going to play the guitar? It seems really, in some ways, since every note counts, like you can't be overly busy with your parts and.
Yeah, I mean, it does. We've never tried to be overly busy, but him as a producer, like I said, he had this sound in mind from the beginning, and to where I wasn't in his mind, obviously, and I didn't know what was going on. We approached this as a 2-guitar player record. Eric played just as much guitar on this record as I did, which I like.
And Zach played bass on this
and
record.
I played bass on this record.
Yeah.
We do that. We're kind of the band that we just kind of swap instruments in the
I
studio.
remember that day though when you all switched instruments. That was cool.
Zach has a certain feel that he plays with, and I have a certain feel that I play with, and I felt like it was something where if Zach had written the riff and that was his thing, then he should play it because that's the way it should sound. If I had written the riff, then I should play it because that's how it should sound. And you know, we're a band, and we really know how to check our egos and leave them at the door. And Zach has a certain feel on bass on certain things that I don't have. So there was a certain pocket that I need for a certain piece or for a certain song, and it's something he's familiar with. He should play it. And I played some drums on the record, not a song of drums, but drums, you know.
Yeah.
And it just depended on where we were at the time, what we needed, what needed to happen. Nobody has any fragile egos or anything. And we all actually sang a lot on the record, a lot of background stuff that at one point on other records, Brent might have sang a ton of background stuff, and he did sing a ton of background stuff. But other parts that we all, would do harmonies on if just to do something different.
Yeah, it's fun changing
Zach
up
played
too.
piano on the
I
record.
did.
Zach
I
played
played
piano,
on the
yeah.
record.
And it just there was
Give it up for that.
everybody
Hey,
a
I
round
mean-
of applause, Mr. Zach Myers
my
and his
mediocre-
piano skills.
My mediocre at best.
I mean, Zach's he was already a veteran of that. He played all the piano on Thick as Thieves on
I did.
on Threat to Survival.
Yeah,
That was
there you go.
Zach Myers on
To
piano.
to go back to your question, so for me, like notes are, I've never been a flashy player. I care about songs, and to me, that's what a record is. It's about the song. So, and if I ever would kind of get flashy on something, you have him to kind of pull you back because, I want to do what's best for the song. And I think with this record, musically, this is the most powerful lyrical accompaniment to a lyric, I think, of any record. Even more so than Sound of Madness, which is kind of, not necessarily our benchmark, but was our catapulting album that kind of brought us into arenas and things like that, and brought songs to, all these people tonight. And it's so, for us, when it comes to making a record and making the music on a record, we're going to do what's best for the song, whether it's, a lot of Threats of Survival, and there's songs on this record too, are one string, very Jack White, small amp, big sound kind of things, but when you have him behind the console making it happen, it sounds enormous. The thing about Devil is that most people don't realize it's a lot of one string playing.
There's not a single chord in that song
No.
until the bridge where that acoustic guitar plays, but the rest of it is
One
single,
crushing riff after
one note,
another.
one string. Leave it to a bass player, right?
One riff
string
to rule them all. Very big riff.
But he says it's not a lot of. But there's we both have actually a lot of cool flashy moments on this record.
Yeah, we do.
Too,
It's really cool. There's a lot of guitar solos on this record again, which is very nice.
I was going to say that most guitar players, when they say that they're playing for the song, it usually means that they really can't play. But Zach, I could tell you, that dude totally rips.
This guy can play, man.
Which is, to me, it's got to be a tough thing to be able to hold back, like when you can play as well as you do, to not take the big solo in every song.
Zach has a very good saying. It's not about the painting. Oh, sorry. What is
It's
it?
not about the painter, it's about the painting.
That's what it is. It's not about the painter. It's about the painting.
I've gotten, to me, accolades for me are band accolades. I don't care about solo accolades whatsoever, and I never have, and for me, it's about what light can I bring to the band and what light can I shine on the band. I don't want to be a guy who stands up there and shreds for 15 minutes. I have the utmost respect for it, but I'm a songwriter and I want the song to be good first. I don't need to, at this point in my career, I don't need to prove anybody that I can play guitar well.
But what you don't know is that every day before sound check for 15 minutes, he gets on stage and shreds until we all get up there.
What did you call it the other day? You had a good name for it the other day.
What did I call it?
The Zach Myers Blues Explosion.
Yes. The Zach Myers Blues Shred explosion happens every day.
I'll get on stage and I was influenced by the blues. You know that. I was influenced by the blues, and I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, so I was a huge blues player. Thank you. Yeah, just clap for everything.
3 people in here that like Memphis. That's great.
Yeah, clap for everything. I could have been like, yeah, Nesbitt, Mississippi. None of you guys have heard that. We'd be like, yeah, Nesbitt. I grew up a blues player, so I grew up, and then I played with B.B. King when I was 15.
He schooled you with one note one time.
And I read later that he did this to Albert King and Stevie Ray Vaughan too, but we were all jamming on stage one night. I forgot where we were, but the 3 of us it was me and Kenny Wayne Shepherd, and I forgot who the other player was, and we'd all kind of go around. We were playing The Thrill Is Gone. We'd all play around, and then someone else would go, and I felt really good about myself because I was playing fast, and I was like, oh, this is great. And then BB stopped the band and held one note for 16 bars, and I literally put my guitar down and walked off stage. It was kind of that homage of your peers going, it's not about the amount of notes, it's about the quality and the one note.
If you're going to be taken to school, might as well be by B.B. King.
There's worse people to be taken to a school by.
We've been sort of talking a lot about the devil this evening. I was wondering, what does the devil mean to you guys?
What does the devil mean to us? Oh, where do we begin?
Will Ferrell in the Saturday Night Live skit.
Yeah, Fred's Got Slacks with Garth Brooks. That's the devil from the SNL skit. That's what the devil means. Now, it's one of those dynamics where I think that you have to. I don't think that you should play it safe, in your livelihood, who you are. I think that you need to be conscious of your surroundings and who you are as an individual, but it's about learning, and it's about asking questions, and it's about, I've always thought that, I'm not into asking what if. I'd rather ask why not. You know what I mean? And the devil, however you look at it, that's that energy that's inside of you telling you you can't do it. You're never gonna do it. And what you have to learn is you don't have to like that part of you, but you have to respect it. Because if you don't, it'll take over and it'll make you second guess who you are. And I'm telling you, don't ever do that. Stand your ground, be yourself, and I promise you, you'll succeed in everything you do.
Hello, Eric.
No, I
What
mean,
does the devil mean to you?
I'm absolutely not as eloquent as Mr. Smith. But just in the context of the song, what Brent said, I mean, for me, the devil is my depression. It's the thing that keeps me down, the thing that keeps me in the house, won't let me get out of bed certain days, and would kill me if it could. And I've often said to Brent, I wish that I could reach in my head and grab that thing, whatever it is, and just rip it out and get rid of it. And I think all of us have those things in our lives, those things we wish we could get rid of, those unsavory parts of ourselves that are there for whatever reason, whether they're natural or they're self-imposed. But as Brent said, you can't try to ignore it and beat it down. You have to accept it. You have to respect it. And once you do that,
It has no more control.
You can keep it from controlling your life. And so for me personally, that's what the devil is. And in the song, we're talking about the devil's in the next room. For me, it's that. For Brent, it's addiction. And for Zach, it's cheeseburgers. And
It's true.
No, but I mean that wholeheartedly.
It's been a long fight, but...
But you have to respect it. It's in the next room. It's right there. It's coming to get you if you don't figure out how to deal with it in a respectful way. So.
Yeah, for me, I mean, we're all of the same ilk and of the same brain, and we know what the song's about. And, like you said, it's for some people it's drugs, for some people it's depression, for some people it's drinking, for some people it's sex addiction, whatever it is. Your any vice that you have, any addiction, any problem that plagues your life, it's always right behind you, or it's always close by. And it's, to me, it's just about changing your mind and changing the way you look at it. And if you can defeat that, then you're living your best life in a way, in the sense of it's never gonna be able to wrap you up if you're aware of it and you can kind of fight it. And it's about having a support system around you to help you fight it. Especially for him and him. They deal with these things every day. I've never had an issue like that. So for me, other than the cheeseburger thing, but
Meat and cheese only.
pickle and mustard now. I added pickle and mustard. That's neither here. That doesn't matter.
I sort of want to be a little pro-devil here for a moment.
Oh, God.
Can I take
All right.
I'm going to take the opposite. No.
All right.
But, the devil in the rock and roll has always had a pretty interesting sort of exchange there, Like, the devil can be something that makes you want to have fun and cut loose or rebel, it has some good aspects to it.
It's not really the devil, though. I mean, come on. I think
In classic rock it is, yes.
Okay, yeah.
No Christmas with the devil?
That'd be I'm actually going to make a Christmas album called Christmas with the Devil.
I interrupted Brad.
Me and you,
Go ahead.
Brad. Me and you.
Okay. I'll ignore my sponsor for a minute and get back to it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Human Radio, the other video that you guys put out. And first, I thought it was really cool that the star of the video was a woman. Because a lot of times, like hard rock bands such as yourself, it sort of gets typecast as just being for dudes or young guys or whatever. And I thought it was an interesting choice that it was sort of a woman that was, acting out the songs, or that, how do you feel about that? I mean, female audience has to be able to relate to your lyrics as well. Is that a consideration?
I think that it comes down to the dynamic that we're not really into rules and we're not into boundaries. So it was really important that part of Human Radio we wanted it to be a female. Once again, you have to take into consideration, we have a bigger vision for the entire album because we are going to be able to tell you the story. So a lot of these individuals that you've seen in the first two videos, you'll see them again in other videos as well, because we're that whole dynamic is very important. But it's also about, I'll give you an example too. That day that we did the Human Radio video, we were working with our director, Bill Yukik, and he was like, I'm gonna need like 20, 30 people to have these shots on the street. And we were like talking about how we were gonna get extras and what have you, because we were in Los Angeles. And we basically, I don't know how many days, what was it, 72 hours, something like that?
Yeah, it was a couple days, yeah.
All the people that you see in the Human Radio video, aside from the young lady who is, the main focus in that video, those are all Shinedown fans that came up to Los Angeles. And
thank you. If anyone's here, was anybody in the video here? Anyone?
I don't know. There might be somebody here. I don't know.
People came from all over, though. It was very cool.
Yeah, they flew. Like, there were people that flew in from other countries, other cities, and like Bill was like, as long as I get 20, 30 people, we'll be good. It's like 170 people that showed up, and it was just really, really cool to have that because there were just different kinds of people from all walks of life, But that's what that video and that song is about, too. If you wonder what the Human Radio is, it's your heartbeat. That's what it is. It's society and humanity, but it's the heartbeat. And play that. The cool thing too, towards the finale of that video, because it's by no means the end of anything, there are 3 cameos from the Devil video. The people that are behind her when she's looking at the exclamation point, all 3 of those people were in the Devil video as well. You'll catch that the next time you look at it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, there's a lot of dynamic in this album. There's a lot of... It's not one-sided, man.
But to your point, I mean, are we ever thinking about a female audience when we're writing? We're just thinking about humanity. We're thinking about people. We had a very interesting conversation in the car today about our fan base and how diverse it is. And you hear people talk about diversity a lot these days. And it's not something we ever bring up because we don't have to, because we see it on a daily basis. And you know, we have fans that are transgendered. We have fans that are black. We have fans that are white. We have fans that are pro Second Amendment. We have fans that are, you know, from so many different countries.
From 8 to 80.
From 8 to 80, and we love every single one of them. And when we're writing a record, that's who we're thinking of. We're not thinking of a gender or color or anything else. It's just, how do we take what we've experienced, what we have in here, put it in there so human beings can enjoy it. So there wasn't a conscious thing about having, like, you know, oh, we're going to have a woman in this video, and we're going to have a guy in this video, or in my head it's this guy in a chair in a room. It's just a person in a room in a chair, and they're going through this and they're living this. And that's what I meant earlier when I said that they're in every single one of these stories and every single one of these songs, you're all going to be able to find something in these songs that you can take and own and hold, and it's tangible. You can make it yours. You're taking, you know, pieces of our life and taking ownership of them. So that's what I think about.
Well, I think I got through about maybe a quarter of my questions, but
we're talkers, man.
No, it's great. It's fantastic.
Keep going, Brad. Keep going.
But now I sort of want to open it up and let some of these people here that came tonight to ask a couple of questions, you know? So I'm going to have Laura come around. If you have a question, you know, raise your hand, and Laura will come around and include you.
Calm down, sir. Calm down.
Oh, we're going to get to some music, but let's hear from our audience here.
Settle down, you in the back.
All right, so with the first two songs, you know, I really relate to them a lot because, you know, as someone who has dealt with depression and you know has been very close to the end, you know, I'm starting to see the journey from it, and you know, I'm really excited to hear this record all together. So my question to you is, while writing this record, were any like old wounds opened up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what it was. The question is, when we were making this record, did we have to open up old wounds to get the end result? And that's all we did, really, because this is the first record that, and I'm so proud. I might get emotional. I'm gonna try not to. This is the first record that Brent Smith has written sober, ever. But here's the thing. It's probably the most dangerous record he's ever written lyrically, and the most thought-provoking record he's ever written lyrically. And that came from doing exactly what you asked about, which is, hey, is it okay to talk about these things? Well, it absolutely is. And you talked about depression, and that all started from a song called Get Up, which I think we're going to play later.
Yeah, we're going to
play it.
But Brent, I'd had this music. Brent and I had worked on this tune for a while, and we had the music done, the melodies done, and he's like, "Well, I'm gonna go work on the lyrics." And a few days went by, and he didn't show up at the studio. We talked to each other every day. He's like, "I'm not ready yet. You know, I'm not ready for it." And finally, he's like, "Okay, I'm ready to. I got something. I'm gonna bring it in." And he got in the studio, and he sat down in front of me, and he goes, "I'm gonna be honest with you. I've had this for about 5 days, but I was nervous to play it for you, or nervous to sing it for you." He's like, "Because I wrote it about you. I wrote it about your depression." And it was extremely personal to me for him to do that. And we finished the song, and we finished up whatever lyrics needed to be capped off. And when we were done with it, that song made it okay to write the rest of the record, and made it okay to write a song like Devil, which addresses his addiction issues at rock bottom. And so all this record was opening up
The emotional floodgates,
Yeah.
if you will.
You know, there's a song in the middle of the record called Dark Side, which we haven't really talked about a lot in any interviews, but that song is literally about opening up your brain and inviting someone into this twisted world that you've got up here. And there's just a lot of that on this record. It's very, it's all open wounds, basically. Great question. Hey, man, I'm glad you're dealing with everything, too.
We're going to take one more right here.
Come on down.
You guys are awesome, by the way.
You're awesome.
Hello.
Saw you at Tampa Friday night, by the way. You guys
Awesome, man.
Thank
Did we do okay?
Oh, you're amazing.
Well, thank you very much.
So, a question. So, with the song Enemies, was that kind of an impetus to, like, a beginning to this album? Because there's so much in that about how you guys kind of deal with each other and deal with, you know, with all the fame and all of the things that come down. And, you know, and obviously, each of us have addictions, obviously, and they're not necessarily the same, as you said before. We all fight our demons. So when you kind of, that song to me kind of turned something for a lot of you, because you came to, like you were saying, the end of your tour, you had so much fame, you had so much this, and then it went. So how did that impact your new album?
I think that how it impacted was experience. And to be very blunt and bold, and I'm not trying to bring the mood down by any means whatsoever, but living through it, if you know what I mean. Like, when I think of where we were with Enemies, and that was on the Amaryllis cycle, I think we were really open at that time also, like, I think that the media had an idea at that point in time what this band was, and all we wanted to do was be genuine and honest and forthcoming. Remember when we talked about doing that video, there were totally different concepts that were way more expensive. You know what I mean? And then the director that we worked with at that time, Darren Doan, who's done a lot of our videos in the past, he took us, I remember we were in Connecticut, and he had this idea, and it was about just stripping all the bells and whistles away, and actually from a serious but also kind of comedic side, like, because it's a heavy song, it's an intense subject matter, but it was like, don't take yourself so seriously. You know what I mean? Like, learn to have a little bit of a give here and there. So, I mean, with that particular video and that particular song and where we are now, look, I'm the last person to tell anybody to go out there and try to cheat death, because death will win. But I'll tell you this. I have been clean since I'm about 2 years in, March 1st. Thank you. I remember where I was, and we were starting touring cycle for Threat to Survival. I'm in a hotel room, and I'm kind of just doing the quintessential what you do when you're an addict. You know, this is your last drink, your last drug, whatever you, I'm gonna be straight up with y'all. And I remember waking up from the night before, and this was March 1st. So I'm waking up from the prior evening. And I go into the restroom in my hotel room, and I look at myself in the mirror. And I had what happened, I call it getting your bell rang. So I'm looking at myself in the mirror, and all of a sudden, I just remember my head, it literally felt like someone out of nowhere just cracked me in the head with like a hammer. And I saw stars, and I remember falling on my knees and holding on to the counter. And I didn't have an epiphany. I didn't have, a visitor. There wasn't an angel behind me or anything like that. But what I did have was this. I could feel an energy pick me up and stand me up. And I was looking at myself in the mirror. And that energy didn't say anything to me, but it let me know, that's it. You've used them all. So if you decide to fall again, that's on you. And it was this acknowledgement of, I got another opportunity. But I'm aware that I have so much more to live for. I'm no good to my son dead. You know what I mean? And I'm no good to these guys if I'm not here. And the only reason I bring this up, because you asked the question about, you know, that song and that time and where we are now, I take that moment with me. I don't always think about it, but I'm not invincible. You know what? None of us are. And I think if there was ever a moment in my life where I was being disrespectful to not only the fact that I'm alive and I'm able to do what I love, I know that 100% now I would never disrespect that ever again.
That's some profound shit, my brother. Anyways, on that, I think what we'll do is we should play some music. You guys are in for a real treat tonight because they're going to play 4 songs that a lot of people have not heard before.
And maybe one that you
Gonna be
have.
Some new songs. Anyways, so we're going to take a bit of a break.
Just a second. Just enough to get set up and everything. You guys will hang around, right?
We're going to take a break and set up the instruments. These guys are going to play, and we'll see you in a bit. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Give it up for Brad
Give it
from
up for Brad.
BackStory right here. Round of applause.
Come on.
Shinedown.
All right. Let's put this together.